And we're back with another Animals Everywhere podcast. New episode every second Sunday. Let's see how quickly I can do this. We are busy moving right now, so I don't have much time to do anything at the moment because I'm doing a million things at once. So a few things before we get into the episode. If you want to support us out, please share this podcast. As you know, I'm now part of the Animals at Home network, which you can check out at animalsathome.com. So currently you have two hosts for the podcast, myself, Bryce Broom, and Dylan Perrin, who runs Animals at Home. If you want to check out either of the two podcasts, just go to animalsathome.com and then you'll find both of the podcasts there. And finally, you're listening to episode 5 of the Animals Everywhere podcast. Today I'm speaking with Arno Naude. Arno is one of those legends known throughout the world for dealing with snakebite, and he's just always been around. He's got so much information in his brain. He's absolutely incredible, and the amount of knowledge that he knows on snakebite is absolutely astounding. He has personally dealt with close to 600 bites, including that of animals and humans. In this episode, we cover how snakes actually run in your blood, and good luck if you're ever trying to get rid of them, because once you love snakes, you can never not love them, and you'll always be stuck with that infatuation with these animals. We also cover dealing with snakebite and training doctors, and how snakebite in rural areas is absolutely devastating and doesn't just affect the person that has been bitten, and how neurotoxic snakes don't always show neurotoxic effects once someone has been envenomated. We possibly find out why people are subconsciously afraid of snakes, and the most common reasons keepers are envenomated. Basically, Arno said, don't be in a hurry to die, which is something that should stick with you because you shouldn't do anything in a hurry when you're working with these animals. As I say in my videos all the time, patience is the key. He also covers the do's and don'ts of snakebite and how most keepers get envenomated. Without further ado, let's get into this episode. It's really fascinating and you should listen to the whole thing and then share it with literally all your friends because there is so much to learn from this episode, especially about snakebite as well as just keeping in general. So, thanks for choosing to listen to this episode. Enjoy. Cool, so you ready to begin?
Yeah, I'm ready.
You're listening to Animals Everywhere, a podcast that aims to inspire each and every one of you to make an impact and be the change, learn more about our natural world, explore the lives of those wild and wonderful. My name is Bryce Broom, and I'm best known for my infatuation with wildlife and to live a wild life. Uncle Arno, thank you so much for coming. Do you mind me calling you Uncle Arno?
No, it's fine. I'm getting used to it now. It's better than the Indian guy started calling me Oom, and then it made me feel even worse. But yeah, whatever. Arno is great as well. It doesn't really matter.
It's just out of respect because I've got so much respect for you. So
thank you.
So I wanted to start off with, what age did you start working with reptiles?
I started reptiles when I was about 12 years old. I kept some guinea pigs and some marauding dogs, feral dogs, whatever. Got in there, killed the guinea pigs, and I was heartbroken. My dad said to me, listen, I'll get you a pet that you don't have to worry about the dogs. And he brought home an egg eater. And that's where it started. And this is back 1970 somethings. So it was 1973. So what happened then was you have one snake and nobody else knows anything about snakes. So you become the snake person. So every time somebody saw a snake, they'd phone you and go, hey, what snake was this? And I didn't know. So I started getting books out of the library. And luckily I managed to go and visit people like Wolf Harker at the museum and people like this. And then you're a sponge. You just absorb everything you can. So eventually you do get the point where, yes, okay, you have a nice collection, but I knew very little about venomous stuff. I kept boomslang. I was free handling rattlesnakes when I was 14 years old because the guy who sold it to me was actually a teacher, and he said, "I don't worry if you get bitten, go to hospital." It doesn't work like that, but yeah. So
you just kind of think, oh, this is a safe thing to do because someone told me it's fine.
Yeah, so I did a lot of stupid things, but then obviously left school, had to take a break, all that, and then I started with snakes again. And it built up slowly, and then I decided to take early retirement, and then it just went completely haywire because then it just, every week it was one more, until where I am now.
Yeah, that's incredible. I think I don't know what it is about reptiles, but there's something that there's a lot of us that want to get more and more. It's almost an addiction, if I can say something.
It's very
like that.
close to an addiction. And another thing people don't often think about is they say, oh, I'm getting rid of all my snakes. And I say, if you want to get rid of all your snakes, get rid of all your cages as well. Throw them away, give them away, do something. Because if there's an empty cage, within 6 months, it will be full. And when snakes are when you've got them in your blood, that's it. It's a lifetime thing. I see very, very few people who leave the hobby and never at a later stage have, even if it's just one cage with a small little eyelash viper or something, there's always somebody who has some reptile, or they come to you and they go, I don't keep reptiles anymore, but my kids are interested. Can you get me a leopard gecko? So it stays in you because it's so unusual.
It's crazy to think that it's not like a hobby that dies off. It seems like it's a genetic encoding that is stuck in your brain. Like, why are we actually so fascinated by them?
It's definitely genetic. I mean, it's been like that all along. People that I've seen, you speak to them about their parents, and it does seem like some of it's genetic, and then some of it is rebellion because, my father hated snakes, so I decided to keep snakes. So you get people who are rebellious, and then they end up actually being very good at keeping snakes and learning about them.
And then they actually learn to love the animals even more so because of that initial start.
Yeah.
So why do you think you're so intrigued by reptiles?
It's not about controlling nature, but it's about having a piece of nature in your house because of the way we live. I can't go and walk in the bush every day and go and sit there and listen to birds and whatever. So because I can't go there, I'd like to bring that home. And that is where it starts. And then you become fascinated by them and stupid little things that excite you. When you've had a snake that doesn't want to eat, for 2 weeks, and then suddenly it takes a dead mouse off a tweeze and you go, yes. And other people look at you and they go, I don't get excited when I feed my dog or my cat. And you go, but you don't understand. Your dog or cat will eat. If I don't give this reptile exactly what it needs, it's not going to eat. So those are little things that do it for you. And then the first time that your snakes start mating, you go, yes, yes, yes. And then they lay eggs or have babies. And then you go over the moon and, yes, I'm a breeder. And then you struggle like hell to get the babies to feed. And when they do feed, you go, yes, I'm doing something right. So you feel a sense of achievement straight away with it. There are some people who keep it for the wrong reasons. They keep it because it's an ego trip. If you get a guy who says he only keeps big pythons and venomous, then you go, yeah, you should have bought a Porsche. Because that's not an interest. That is something that they want people to look at and go, wow, look at this guy. He's dangerous or he's good or whatever. And it's not about that. It's about being able to keep everything from a tiny little day gecko all the way through to a reticulated python. Keep everything in between because it's something that interests you and the whole group of reptiles interest you. I mean, if we could, we would also keep things like terrapins and tortoises and all this other stuff which people overseas keep, which we just don't have access to. But if we had the opportunity, we'd do it.
Exactly. It's definitely something that sticks in your blood, and that sense of accomplishment you get from like breeding these snakes or getting the babies to feed, it just, I don't know, it fulfills you, gives you a desire to want to do this and also want to conserve the natural environment for the animals too.
I don't think people who keep birds get the same kick out of keeping birds.
But birds are mean, Yeah,
but besides the fact that birds bite and I don't like birds, getting a bird to feed is not a big deal. You put down seeds or fruit or whatever and they eat.
Yeah.
That's the way they are. If they get sick, the next day they're dead. Where with reptiles, if they get sick today, you've got to think, what did I do wrong 2 months ago? Because that's how long it takes. So when you get to the point where you start looking at, the finer points of husbandry or the finer points of their venoms, then you start to really look into this and you go, but there isn't information out there. How do I find out? And the worst place is to ask on the internet. I mean, that's like saying, I've got a growth on my knee. What should I do? I mean, you'll have everything from cancer to whatever, because each person has their own opinion and none of them are probably right. So then it becomes difficult because you need to then look at scientific journals and that sort of stuff, and you've got to wade through all of them, and not all of them are accessible. A lot of them you have to either sign up or you have to be registered at a university before you can even get into them. So once you've got that knowledge, you sort of like are really, you hang on to it like it's something precious because it's not easily accessible.
Yes.
And you know that somebody's going to phone you and say, hey, listen, I've got a snake. It's got these funny growths on the side. And, what do you think it can be? And then you go, okay, I read about this. Possibly it could be internal parasites. Have you tried cutting it open? Maybe it's a worm. Maybe it's an infection. So you start looking at all of that, which then takes your level of husbandry that much higher. And then you have more success. And when you have more success, other people see this and they go, well, if something goes wrong, phone this guy. So then someone will phone you and you go, I'm not sure. I remember reading something about, I'll get back to you. Now you go research all this stuff, and in between you pick up other things as well. You get back to him and you go, no, these snakes are known to do that, or these lizards will do that, or this is unusual, or your animal's probably going to die. And that also helps a lot, that the more you learn, the more you appreciate what you've got. Especially when nothing goes wrong.
As well as like the more you learn, the less you tend to know, which is amazing. You're like, oh wow, I actually don't know anything the more you start learning. But I think we're at an age where we can find like the information is literally at the tips of our fingers to find out about it. Like you can still find the scientific journals through your cell phone or through your tablet, but it's just combing through the bad information too. You got to learn to decipher what's good and bad.
And also all the information that's there, which makes them, whoever wrote it, look very intelligent and makes a wonderful research project. But the information that I want is generally in the conclusions. So I scan through that first and go, is it worth my while to wade through 28 pages? Because a lot of it gets very involved, and it's at a level that I'm not going to need it, or that I'm not going to use it. So that also, you need to know which ones are worth keeping and which ones aren't worth keeping.
That's very true. So you own and run a company called Snakebite Assist. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Okay, that started because I was married to somebody who worked in an emergency room at a big hospital, and people would come in after having been bitten, and they would phone me and say, can you come and ID the snake? I'd go there, I'd ID the snake. If it was a venomous snake, I'd hang around to see what happens. And I realized that those doctors were not trained to deal with snakebite. Now, the reason why they're not trained to deal with snakebite is it's such a small part of the whole curriculum. If they weren't there that afternoon, they missed the entire lecture. So doctors, unless they specialize in it, often don't come across snakebite that often. So what happens is they remember something, and then 10 years later, now suddenly they have a bite, and then they go, yeah, I remember vaguely about this. And the problem is that they're not kept up to date. And the reason for that is because we don't have that many snake bites. I mean, if you take how many doctors we have in South Africa, we've got thousands. And if we have 1,000 bites a year, some of those doctors will probably never see a bite in their entire career. I've spoken to doctors who are ready to retire who say, I've never dealt with a snake bite. And then you get other doctors who live in areas where snake bite's very prevalent, and they go, well, I see about one a week. South Africa doesn't have that many snake bites. I went up to Kenya and I spoke to the doctors there, and they reckon, we probably get about 4 or 5 a week. And I'm going, like every day? And they go, yes, every day. So, and this was just a normal hospital. And the worst of all is they didn't have a single vial of anti-venom there.
Wow.
They just didn't have the funds for it. But anyway, to get back to, right, so Snakebite Assist started because I was trying to teach the people who get bitten what to do when they get to hospital. If the doctor is unsure, you can give him advice and hope that he follows it. So I was looking at, snake keepers, game rangers, just people who go cycling, basically trying to teach them. And then through that, I obviously had to teach myself. like crazy, everything there was about snakebite, because even the medical journals that I got had very little in it that covered all the South African stuff. So I had to put that together myself. And I then went and put all of this together, and I was lucky somebody from the university invited me for a talk. I got a double slot, which nobody got. This was a African conference. And at the end of it, these guys were, wow, okay, can you please come and lecture? So I started lecturing at the university, which was great for me, because I knew that I'd give them all my phone numbers, and sometimes they'd phone back. The other day I got a phone call out of Somalia from a lady who I had trained 14 years before that. So you forget how long people will keep your number as, well, if you're in trouble, phone this number. So that's where Snakebite Assist started. It was going to be combined with the expos. The reason was that I wasn't making money out of removing problem snakes. We didn't charge at that time. We used to do it for free. And in the whole of Gauteng, I kid you not, I think there were 7 of us that were collecting snakes, of which 3 were working full time. So it would be nothing for me to drive 100, 150 kilometers a day, go and get some wrinkles out of somebody's garden and just drop it off down the road.
Or turn up there and there's no snake to be found.
Yes, I've done my fair share of school ties and banana peels and all that stuff as well. So that's when I started with the expos, was to actually try and use that money to fund the snake removals, as well as try and keep the price down of the courses that are presented on snakebite and treatment and avoidance and all that sort of stuff. So it's all combined in such a way that I've got a finger in a whole lot of pies, and I have to, because otherwise the whole thing falls apart.
Yeah, so they all kind of have a use to each other.
Yes.
If this wasn't here, then this wouldn't work. So they all affect each other. So what are the first things you need to know when a patient has been bitten by a snake?
If possible, everybody says, don't worry about that, the doctors are going to treat the symptoms. And I need to know exactly what snake it is. And the reason for that is we don't know enough about snakebite. Every single snakebite is different. Nobody can tell me they've seen 2 snakebites that look the same.
That's incredible.
They lie. Every single one is different, because individual snake, individual person, individual circumstances, individual history of the snake, individual history of the person, all of that has an effect on what is going to probably happen with this person. So if I can ID the snake, I can automatically say, right, we're now going to be looking at, are we giving anti-venom? Are we not giving anti-venom? Are we just giving fluids? Are we just treating for pain? Or are we just going to put a plaster on and send them home? And just looking at a bite site, you can't tell. And you can sit there and look at the person and his arm is swelling up and it's going blue, and you don't know when it's going to stop. So if the person comes in and he's got a mangled night adder, you can go, okay, great, we're not giving you anti-venom. If the guy comes in with a puff adder and you see swelling and bleeding like that, you go, you know what, let's just give him anti-venom. And people go, yeah, but that's irresponsible because he can have an allergic reaction. Yes, sure, he can. Sorry, but my corona's playing up. But if you know that person has been bitten by a potentially lethal snake, the antivenom is not just to save his life. The antivenom is to give him a better quality of life after the bite. So you don't want that person to have renal failure. You don't want him to have liver problems. You don't want him to have a lot of other things which can go wrong with a snake bite. So in the event that it's a potentially lethal bite, give antivenom a lot quicker. It causes less damage to the body. The person recovers quicker. He's out of the hospital. It costs medical aid less, costs hospital less. They've got an open bed. Everything is great, and the person goes home. So knowing which snake it is actually very, very important. If you don't know what snake it is, yes, we can try and eliminate, okay, it wasn't this, it wasn't that, so it's probably this. But I can promise you, I've seen night adder bites that are worse than puff adder bites, where the puff adder gave a proper bite. And I've seen night adder bites which look way worse. You can't just say, oh, this is what it looks like, so it is probably that. And it does make it very difficult. And that is where, exactly the same as the traditional healers and doctors who are not up to date with snakebite, make the same mistake. Because let's say 80% of people won't need antivenom. So you can give them whatever. You can give them dried charcoal. You can give them Finnegan, whatever you want to, and they will survive. And you go, yes, that's the answer. And it doesn't mean that. It just means the person would have survived in any case.
Yes.
So they survived despite the treatment. And that is where people fall into a pattern. And they go, I actually spoke to a guy once. He had been bitten 12 times by puff adders, and he goes, oh, doesn't matter. All you need is cortisone and Finnegan, which is an antihistamine. And I'm looking at this and I'm going, dude, you've never seen a proper puff adder bite. Yes, you've been bitten 12 times.
But you've been lucky.
Yeah, you've been lucky. Maybe the snakes that you work with are dehydrated or sick or something, or just are too cold, or in such weak condition they don't give off enough potent venom to cause a serious bite. But you get a serious bite from a nice, healthy, wild-caught puff adder. Those two things are not going to save your life. You're going to die.
Yes. It's not anti-venom. We can't replace anti-venom at this point in time. And as well as now, there's lots of like bad quality anti-venom coming on the market, which is quite sad. Like, I think I saw recently some Indian anti-venom that doesn't even cover our species that they said works for African snakes or whatever.
The thing is, there is some antivenoms, or there are some antivenoms which are cross-sensitive to other animals. For example, if you get bitten by an Australian death adder, the chances are pretty good you could survive on South African polyvalent, along with probably a couple of other things added. You could probably survive that. So too many people look at this and they go, well, okay, we can use Naja, which is a spectacled cobra. Its venom is very similar to Annulifera, which is a snouted cobra, and yeah, it should work. Yes, it will work because generally your cobras have fairly similar venoms. But if you do the research just on, for example, forest cobras, which used to be one group, one species which are now broken, and you look at the difference in venoms, it's radically different. You look at ekis, these little saw-scaled vipers, their venoms from different areas are radically different.
Yes.
So you can't make an anti-venom and say, well, I made it from this snake, so it should be good for that snake and that. It doesn't work like that. And even if you've got, I'm going to make anti-venom from Mozambique spitting cobras, great. Are you going to use adults? Are you going to use babies? Yes. Are you going to use adults from Swaziland? Are you going to use adults from Mozambique? Are you going to use adults from Namibia? Where are you, what are you going to do? Because each one's venom, if you go and analyze it, is going to be different to the next one.
That's what's so interesting. Like, the different localities have completely different venom because of how they evolve.
Yes, and nobody thinks of that. I mean, for years now, we've had this argument about wrinkles. Are they cytotoxic or neurotoxic? And everyone goes, no, they're neurotoxin. And I go, have you seen a bite from a wrinkles? It's got a fairly potent cytotoxin. So there was research done on that. It's due to be published. And you now think, but okay, the ones that I've seen with a bad necrosis actually all came from the Eastern Cape, Natal, those areas. The ones with less necrosis were up here from Gauteng. Do we milk both types when we make antivenom, or do we just milk one of them because they're freely available in Gauteng? So those are also things that we look at. The other day, there was a girl that got bitten by a Cape cobra in the leg. She had almost zero neurotoxic effects. She had cytotoxic effects to the point that you could push half a finger into the hole in her leg. She had a hole in her leg half the size of a golf ball. It was massive. And you look at this and you go, but that's not what Cape cobras do. And
yeah, they're supposed to be like potently just neurotoxic, yes. Whatever.
And she got antivenom in any case within probably less than 2 hours. Because we could see this wasn't going to work out well. It was a big snake. It's a healthy snake. And you could see she was starting to go red around it. Anyway, she got antivenom. She had a reaction to antivenom. That got sorted out. And then the necrosis just started. And it got worse and worse and worse. And nobody would ever have expected that.
So the antivenom wasn't even helping because...
Antivenom doesn't seem to help for necrosis, especially not on Cape cobras, because the Cape cobras that they milk to make the antivenom with are probably not from this area which caused this massive necrosis. There was a little girl who was bitten by Cape Cobra. She got bitten on the face, and they found out 3 days later she was bitten on the back of the head as well. She's lost all the hair on the back of her head. She had necrosis and a massive abscess under her jaw that they had to operate to drain the abscess, which you're not supposed to see from Cape Cobras.
Yes.
But I remember that specific bite, and the parents sent me almost on a daily basis, sent me photographs. So I was with the kid from when she got bitten right until she eventually recovered and went to school. And you look at a Cape Cobra and everyone says, oh, it's a neurotoxin. And you go, no, it's not.
Yeah, that's exactly what I've been saying, like in my videos. Yes, it's predominantly neurotoxic or neurotoxins, but the amount of like peptides and the different components in the venom varies from locality to snake to snake. It depends on what they eat, their environment they're in. So you can't just put a general statement out there saying, oh no, it's neurotoxic. No, it has the components of basically everything. It's just like varies on how much or whatever.
Yeah. Take snouted cobras. They're also known to just be neurotoxic. And I've seen some really, really bad necrosis as a result of snouted cobras. And another thing is snouted cobras are not really considered to be that dangerous. You take a bite, you should be okay, sort of like 6 vials of anti-venom. Recently, a guy got bitten and he had a top team looking after him. He took 23 vials of anti-venom. He was in ICU for 14 days from a snouted cobra.
23 vials?
Yep.
What was the size of this snake?
It wasn't massive. It was probably... I went to go get the snake, but the snake's back was broken and it died actually just before I got there. But the guy he said he was trying to catch it, but he was trying to kill it. And the snake got upset and bit him 3 times. And as a result of that, obviously gave off more and more and more venom. And snouted cobra bite he was on ventilators for, I think it was 9 days.
Wow, that's incredible. From a snouted cobra.
From a snouted cobra. And we regard them as mildly venomous in Pretoria because we catch them on a daily basis and they generally don't even try to bite. They're very placid snakes and they're very scared snakes. And, you'd expect this from a snake of, 2.7 meters. This thing was maybe 1.5. It was a smallish snake.
So that's not huge at all. And that means its toxins are pretty toxic.
Yeah.
And not, because that's not a huge venom yield, but it's incredibly potent venom. Wow.
That's the thing, if it depends on the what happened when the person got bitten. So if you are teasing a snake or something like that and it bites you, it's going to be or trying to kill it, it's going to be a lot worse than an accidental bite. It's a fact. People can say what they like. I've seen in humans probably just over 300 bites, including animals, probably about 5, almost 600 bites that I've either physically been there or have had photographs or have been in communication with people around the bite. So I've got a fair idea of what people were doing. And the problem that we have is people lie when they go to hospital. If you were trying to kill this boomslang and it bit you, and you go to hospital and they say, what happened? And you say, oh, I was trying to kill the snake and it bit me. You automatically in your mind think the doctor's going to think, well, why should I bother to help you? Because it's your own fault. And it doesn't work like that. The doctors don't really give a damn what you were doing. They want to know what led up to it to give them an idea of how bad it could be. And a lot of the bites where people got bitten by a boomslang and they go, oh, it was an accidental bite. The guy was walking through the bush and the snake, bit him in his leg. And I go,
how did that happen?
It doesn't work like that. Boomslang don't bite people. People get bitten by boomslang. So either you stood on it and you didn't move your foot, or you were trying to catch it, or you were trying to kill it. And unfortunately, that skews the statistics where people have these so-called accidental bites because they're scared the medical aid won't pay out either. Snakebite can cost a lot. I've seen accounts of $250,000, $500,000 for a serious bite. And
wow.
if your medical aid suddenly turns around and says, I'm not going to pay for this, that's it. You spend the rest of your life, you're going to pay back for one little incident where you made a mistake or it was your own fault. So that also skews what we know about bites and how people get bitten and how they don't get bitten. It's like twig snakes. Twig snakes don't bite people. If you get bitten by a twig snake or by a boomslang, you deserved it. I'm sorry. You were trying to catch it. You were trying to kill it. You were messing with it. You weren't observant, or you did something which
aggravated the snake
to the point where you should be looking where you're putting your feet. So if you did stand on it and it bit you in the leg, look where you put your feet.
Yeah, well, sometimes it's a bit difficult, especially with a twig snake, but generally they're not on the ground, so you wouldn't really stand on a twig snake.
Yeah.
I think I saw somewhere recently a study that had been done saying like the statistics of an avid hiker has probably stood on a puff adder without it biting him.
Yeah.
Something like that, which is also incredible. They don't just want to bite you. So how does snakebite affect people in rural areas?
Okay, snakebite, biting people in rural areas is a far bigger problem than the person being bitten. Remember, the person who gets bitten is generally either a child who's playing or looking after cattle or something like that, or it's somebody that's physically working in the agricultural industry, busy digging up carrots or planting spinach or whatever, and they get bitten. So now you've got, number one, it's a rural area. Number two, it takes them forever to get to anti-venom or any kind of help. If they get to anti-venom or whatever help there is and they survive, they usually, especially with things like puff adders and that, they have after effects. So they've got one twisted arm, they can't work anymore. And for each of those people, there's 14 people that are affected. That's on average. Because that person supports the family, they support the grandmother, they've got kids to look after, they've got their brother's kids who are living with them, all that sort of stuff. Because in rural areas, you have very few people that are actually doing work to the point that they're bringing in enough money to contribute to somebody else. So the ones that are contributing to everybody else are the ones that end up getting bitten.
Because they're the ones out there working.
They're the ones that are doing the work. So a bite in a rural area is actually far more traumatic for the community than what it is in a built-up area where one person gets bitten. I mean, we've got families of 3, 4, 5. We're very close to medical help. We get help to come home, maybe at home for a couple of days, and we're fine, and off we go. And we usually don't have long-term damage. If the person dies, you've now got one person taken out of it, and yes, there is a job now for somebody else, as cruel as what it sounds, but now the state must pay for the person that has died, and the family now start getting grants and all of this, and it ends up costing so much more money. And it's really not that expensive to make sure people don't die or get damaged by snakebite. But when you look at it straight away, you think of the person that gets bitten. When you think of the broader picture, you realize that is actually something we should be spending money on, because we are then protecting 14 people from requiring grants, because now the kids don't have parents, so now they get a child grant, and it just carries on, snowballs, because of one person getting bitten by a snake. The other problem that you have is one person gets bitten by a snake and it causes trauma. Everyone else in the family, the next time they see a snake, they're not going to take a picture, they're going to take a spade.
Yes.
And that also then becomes a problem, because the chances are they'll get bitten as well.
Yes, especially because you're making the snake mad, so it's wanting to defend itself for its life, and you're coming in closer proximity to the animal, so the likelihood of you being envenomated is a lot higher. But it's interesting that you said how it doesn't affect just the person that is bitten, but like on average 14 other people. That's something pretty deep to think about.
Not very many people think about it, and it's not something which is applicable in America, Australia, those sort of countries. But in Africa, that's a reality that we have. And, people get very upset and they go, oh, you shouldn't be killing the snakes because, yes, you live in a village in Zambia, but there's snakes all around you. And that to that person that's there, if he gets bitten, he's probably going to die. So if it's between him and the snake, he'll end up killing the snake.
Yes.
And so to get them to the rural population to the point where they go, okay, there's a snake, I'm not going to kill it, leave it alone, is very, very difficult, because they know that their cousin got bitten and this was the trauma that happened to everybody else. So it becomes, it's a whole sort of field on its own, and people laugh about it. They go, oh, but only 20 people die per year. Okay, but all the people that are damaged. And remember, there was research done on people that have been bitten and what happens to them afterwards. There are people who've had cancer which can be directly related straight back to the bite 14 years before that. There are people who have obviously psychological problems, can't sleep, don't want to go out into the field anymore because they're scared of being bitten. They don't want to ever be alone, because what happens if they get bitten and there's nobody with them? So you've got all these things. You've got people with psychological problems. You've got people with problems with their kidneys, people with problems with their liver. Obviously the trauma of the bite itself. Some of these bites take months to recover because it's just a big piece of you is missing and now it's got to grow back. And then once that comes back, you've got people where the hands don't operate properly. And so there's a lot of other stuff besides, oh, we saved the person's life. It's got to do with the quality of life afterwards as well.
Yes.
And that is a whole study on its own.
So that's why you are one for like giving anti-venom if it's needed straight away.
Yes.
And not just saying, oh no, let's wait it out, see how bad it gets.
I hate the idea of waiting, and let's wait and see what happens. Once you've got certain symptoms with, for example, no matter what snake it is in South Africa, if it is one that's covered by the antivenom, if it's covered by the antivenom and you see, there's sometimes, like we work on for mambas, we've got 3 symptoms. You go for, this and this. If you've got these 3, give the antivenom. What's the worst that can happen? Every doctor should know how to treat anaphylaxis. It's not rocket science. It can be difficult.
Yes.
And can be traumatic for the people involved, but most of the time it won't happen. And I've found that the quicker you give antivenom, the less necrosis you have, and the quicker you give antivenom, the less chance there is of allergic reactions.
Oh, wow. So it's almost as if the venom itself is causing an allergic reaction.
It's causing your body to start producing all sorts of chemicals because the body is under attack. And then now it's being attacked again by the horse blood. And as a result, on average, I've seen more people have an anaphylactic reaction 4 to 6 hours post-bite than people who were injected within the first hour. But there are some people who, they get injected within half an hour after a bite and they have a massive anaphylactic reaction. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, everybody's so different to each other. The individuality of our bodies and how it's created, we can't predict everything. It's not like our bodies won't read a book and follow what the book says.
And the problem that we have with some of it is, for example, where we've got predominantly cytotoxic venoms which causes swelling. You have something like a puffer bite. The guy gets bitten on the hand and they say, well, let's wait. And then eventually the swelling is above the arm. Now they give him antivenom. How much of that antivenom is going to reach the area which has been affected? Very little, because there's pressure there. There's very little blood going through. So antivenom gets carried by the blood, and so that's not getting to that area, so it's not neutralizing the venom. So the venom can carry on working longer than what it would have if you'd started earlier, because the blood would have been able to reach the extremities where the venom is actually working and neutralize the venom. So in some cases, quicker is better. In other cases, it is better to wait and see, okay, is it going to turn ugly or not? If it's just the finger that's swollen, just wait.
Yes.
But if the whole hand is swollen within an hour or something, just give the antivenom. It's not going to suddenly heal itself. Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. But something you said earlier of the trauma it causes so many people, I think that may stem from like where people are psychologically just always afraid of snakes, because as snake lovers or reptile lovers, you're like, why are people actually so afraid of these animals? But that may be the reason, because of how it psychologically affects, like somebody knows somebody who got bitten, and then stories can always get exaggerated, and then the fear gets like increases.
Coronavirus is a perfect example. In the beginning, nobody knew anybody that had it, and it was a big joke. And now we all know somebody who's died. We all know somebody who's had it and recovered. And now it's become a reality. And it's the same with snakebite. I mean, somebody will get bitten by a snake and die. But when it starts happening to people that you know, then suddenly it becomes a personal thing. And now it's a time where you go, maybe I should be more careful. Maybe I should do this. And it's the same with snakes. I mean, I should be more careful. Don't go out at night unless you've got a torch. Rather wear boots than open shoes. All that sort of stuff. There are precautions you can take just like you can against this virus that we have. But previously we didn't care about it. Now that it's affected people that we know, we care about it.
Yes.
If you go find somebody who lives in town and you say to him, well, I actually want to talk to you about snakebite, the guy's going to look at you and go, but it won't affect me or anyone that I know. Go away. I'm not interested.
Yes.
But in a rural area, they will know somebody who will know somebody.
That's very true. And what are some of the reasons that you've seen people are bitten in captivity? Like, what causes
Bad husbandry and people who do not read the signs properly. And free handlers. I have no time for free handlers. And the worst is, I know the guy's a free handler, and then they'll phone me and they're desperate. They need anti-venom they don't have. And I've got quite a few exotic anti-venoms as well. And then I go, why should I give him my stock, which is very difficult to replace, when I know it was his own fault? So if you build your cages in such a way that you can clean the cage and not disturb the snake, it's not going to get a chance to bite you. If you have a feeding hatch, instead of opening the glass and throwing a rat at it, all little things like that. There's a lot of things that you can do which make it that much safer. When I was probably about 20 something years ago, I spent a lot of time in Germany, and the keepers there generally don't get bitten. But the reason is their cages are built in such a way that they can move a snake from one cage to another cage for breeding without ever touching the snake. And the big thing is, don't touch the snakes. If you're not within touching range of the snake's not within touching range of you. And then, obviously, be aware of what is happening in a cage. If you see the snake is on that side of the cage and you quickly want to grab a water bowl, you're going to get nailed.
Yes.
There's equipment that you can get or make that you cover the snake, means the snake can't get out. You can still see it. Take out the water bowl, clean it, put it back, take the cover off, which is basically like a big plastic shield. You take it off the snake, close the door, and everybody's happy. So it's little things which you need to train yourself to do, and you have to do it consistently.
Yeah, stick to those protocols and not handle or do silly things if there's not someone around to take you to hospital, even though you're not expecting a bite. Just stick to some of the protocols.
We all know people who've been knocked down within minutes after being bitten. If you get bitten and you think, well, I'll drive myself to hospital, it's only 5 minutes away, you might not make it.
Yeah.
So
true.
It does become one of those things. You have to have somebody around you all the time. I've seen a fair number of bites where the guy gets bitten early in the morning. And I go, how the hell did you get bitten early in the morning? And they go, I was on my way to work. I walked past the cage and I saw the water bowl was dirty. So I thought I'll quickly change it. Don't ever do that. You must plan that you have enough time. If that snake doesn't have water for a day, it's not going to kill him. Or I thought, okay, I'm going to take the snake and drop it off at a friend on the way to work. So I tried to bag it. You've got a time constraint because you need to be at work at 8. So it's 7:15. The snake is trying to hide behind a bush, but you can see the tail. You grab the tail and the head is right there and it nails you. So you must never, I always say, don't ever be in a hurry to die.
Yes.
Take your time, and if something isn't working out, walk away. It's not rocket science. You're not curing cancer. You're working with the snake. If you can't take the snake today, you don't take the snake today. If you can't feed it today, you don't feed it today. If it doesn't have water today, it doesn't have water today. That's bad luck. That's the way life is. But you push the limits because you're in a hurry. You're in a hurry to die. So I've been in situations where people have had, a snake in their house and whatever. And I've looked at this, and you just go, you know what? Just close the door, seal it up, and I'll come back tomorrow. But it's 2:00 in the morning. There's dogs around. There's kids. I can't see properly. There's not a proper torch. I'll rather come back tomorrow. And if the snake gets away, the snake gets away. So what? It's not the end of the world.
Yes.
So you have to know when to draw the line. And that comes with experience, unfortunately. However, if you've got a mentor that you can go to or see the way other people work with animals, especially with venomous stuff, you can say, well, the guy might be a bit pedantic, but he may have a point. Yes. And that's what you need to do. You need to be part of a community. You can't be on your own. In the reptile world, if you're on your own, it's not going to work out for you, because you have to feed off each other's experiences and hands-on experience. Not I heard about it or I saw it on TV, because 90% of what you see on TV is total rubbish. I know. I've worked in the film industry now for also about 25 years, and I've had documentaries shot on my lawn where the runkels sort of rears up and the white-throated monitor smacks it with its tail. Yes, we were lucky to get the shot, but that was put up, it was broadcast on, I think it was National Geographic or something, as this amazing scene these people came across. And I'm looking at this, I'm going, rubbish, man. I've had ball pythons constricting dead mice right outside my front door. It was just, we packed some leaves there, put the snake there, gave it a dead mouse, and they filmed this. And this was included as this guy's trip when he went up into West Africa and he came across this. And I'm looking at this, I'm going, that was shot outside my front door. Come on, this is rubbish. So what you see on TV is never, ever what happens. And you know yourself with the podcast, you can cut and paste as you want to. You can cut now and go, oh, hell, the snake's going to bite me. And then put it back and go, oh, look how calm he's been the whole time. Meantime, the guy he had messed up. So be careful of what you see, because it's manipulated in such a way they've got an idea or a story they're trying to sell you, and that's what they do.
Very true. And something you said earlier of don't be in a rush to die, that's something I absolutely love, because nothing happens quickly with a snake. And at the end of the day, oh yes, the cage is dirty, I need to clean it, but I'm not feeling well today, but the cage is dirty and I really need to clean it. No water, dirty cage, it's not going to kill the snake. The snake can go with a dirty cage, but if you get bitten and then you die from that, the snake's probably going to die because there's no one else who can look after it in your family or whatever. It's better that the snake suffers a bit.
It doesn't really suffer. Look,
Yes.
I mean, obviously, if something is really radically wrong with the cage, for example, there's a light fitting that's broken and there's electricity lying in the water or something stupid like that, you just phone a buddy and say, listen, dude, can you come and help me?
Yes.
I'm not feeling well. I've got a cold. I've just taken cold medicine. I can't clean the cage, but I can help you. Can you please come and help me? The other thing is alcohol. I've seen way too many drunk people get bitten. And
keepers or out in...
Actually, some keepers, but more people out there. Because when you've had alcohol, your reactions are slower, you're a lot braver, and you're not always very bright. So what happens is, the guys are having a braai, and there's a snake that comes past, and they go, okay, I saw this on TV, I'm going to catch this. And they go in there, the reactions are slow, they don't know what they're doing, and they end up getting bitten. And it doesn't look like that on TV. I mean, all that stuff on TV is staged.
Yes.
They can say what they like, but I'm sorry, it's staged.
Yeah, there's a lot. I saw some guy on YouTube do it, so it's easy, just do it like this and that.
No, it doesn't work like that. And the problem then is you've got very slow reactions, but physiologically you've got your vessels are dilated, so your chance of getting venom into your bloodstream is that much faster. You obviously are going to already have strain on your liver trying to flush all the toxins out, and now you've gone and added snake venom to it. It's just all around a bad situation.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that we can do to save life or limb if we're bitten?
get to a hospital, get to a decent hospital as quickly as possible, and along the way, get somebody who knows about this bite and ask them, listen, can you come and help? And get yourself a doctor who, if they know their story, great. I mean, there's a couple of doctors, I've got a list of them. If I send you to that doctor, he's not even going to bother phoning me. He's going to know exactly what to do, and I know you'll survive. If you can get a doctor and say, look, do you mind talking to this person? Great. But if you know that the doctors are doing something completely wrong, you must have the guts to say, listen, can I get another doctor? You're fully within your rights to do it. It's actually patients' rights. There's a law that you have the right to a second opinion. And I've seen that where people start, giving corticosteroids just after a puff at a bite, and you go, don't do that. And, oh no, but I'm going to give him Finnegan and morphine after a mamba bite. And you go, you're going to kill the guy. Don't do it. And I've seen it happen.
Yeah.
So you need to know yourself what the effect of any of the snakes that you're working with will have on your body. So if you are keeping a Trimerosaurus, you need to know, look, what's going to happen when I get bitten? What can I do? What can I not do? What should I do? What shouldn't I do? So that if you're there, you can, and you say, listen, what is that? And they go, no, I'm just giving you medicine. You go, what is that? And then they go, no, we're giving you this and this. And you go, no, it's not recommended for these bites. Sometimes the doctors go, or the nursing staff go, well, okay, you seem to know the subject as well as what we do, or better than what we do, because we don't work with this every day. I mean, no doctor in South Africa should see a Western Diamondback rattlesnake. I know numbers of them that have seen them because people here are idiots and get bitten.
And they're one of the few venomous snakes that are like really easily accessible, and you can get it for cheaper than a ball python, which is sad.
It is sad, and it seems to be that people are moving away from that. They were moving away from it. Now I see it's got a bit of an upsurge again. And it's one of those things that I'm in two minds about. I mean, I've had all of those things. I've had from king cobras all the way through to rattlesnakes. And I've kept from mambas through to runcals. I've kept basically all those things. And I can't say, yes, but you shouldn't be keeping pit vipers or bush vipers or whatever, because I've done it. But some of the people who are keeping them for the wrong reasons. They're keeping them for an ego trip, and their cages are shoddy. They're falling apart. They don't have what the snake needs, and they're not built in such a way that they're easily maintained. And that's when people get bitten.
Wow. I think that's a big thing, is also like having a proper place to work with the animals, and not just in your bedroom when you've had no experience, and then, oh no, the snake gets under the bed, now I'm sticking my hand under there because I don't want it to escape, and then things go wrong just like that. So what are some of the medications to take and not to take in a bite scenario?
Nothing. It's better not to take anything. Get to a hospital, let them evaluate you, because if you've got other medicine on board, they're never sure exactly what the reaction is going to be. So, yes, okay, sure, you can take Panado for pain for just about any snake bite. Panado is not really going to kick that pain that hard. So you might as well just ignore it, so that they've got a clean base to start with. And if they want to give you Panado, they're not going to give you a tablet. They're going to put you on a drip. And that drip is going to have like 1,000 times what you would get out of a tablet. And yes, it will help for pain. If the pain is that bad and it's not one of the neurotoxins, we can give you any of the opiates like morphine and that, which also help for the pain. Once the pain has subsided, quite often your blood pressure comes down, your heart rate comes down. So then they can check, okay, is that as a result of the venom, or is it as a result of the pain? Is it because you're scared? Obviously, if you get bitten and you're not scared, you're an idiot. Yeah. Every time someone gets bitten, they go, wow, am I going to die? Am I going to die? Which goes through your head, because the snake is built to kill things. That's how they get their food. So it's better not to do anything. But when they say keep calm, no. You can't keep calm. I'm sorry. Try to keep calm, but not, okay, now I'm chilled. It doesn't work like that. And whatever you do, do not take something like alcohol or CBD or whatever just to try and chill yourself out. It's not going to help. It's just going to make matters worse.
Yeah. So if doctors are wanting to give you like certain medications, what are some of the things you can see? Okay, no, the doctor shouldn't give me this. I must call someone else to help advise.
Right. The big problem that we have is obviously antihistamines. They have no effect on the venom, and they slow down your breathing. So you don't want that in the event of any of the neurotoxic bites. Because you're already going to be struggling with your breathing, now you're going to be struggling even more. They also make you dopey, which makes your eyes droop, which makes them think you may have ptosis, which means, okay, we need to give anti-venom. Meantime, it's as a result of the medication. So antihistamines you avoid. In the beginning stages, initial stages, you stay away from any of the non-steroidal NSAIDs, which is things like Voltarens and ibuprofens and those sort of things, because what they do is they vasodilators, and the venom then obviously gets a quicker rush through your body. So yes, you can have it after a day or 2 days when the venom has already basically been neutralized. And then any of the opiates that will suppress breathing, if you have that with things like mambas and cobras and that, you've got a big problem. With puff adders, obviously you're staying away from things like aspirin, any blood thinners, because it's already going to thin your blood, and that's going to make you bleed like a pig. So you stay away from aspirin and all that sort of stuff. But there aren't too many of them, and most of the time you should be okay. But the two big ones are the Phenergan and then corticosteroids. Those two you avoid in initial stages completely.
Okay, that makes sense, but it's also hard, like if you're bitten in a rural place or whatever, the reaction is just like, okay, take this, maybe it'll help, but
the problem
in
is
the cases you're making it worse.
Yeah, the problem is that most of the doctors and nurses see snakebite as trauma. Now, trauma and snakebite look very similar, but they're often completely different. That's where you get fasciotomies and all this other stuff, because it looks like trauma. Somebody comes in there with an arm that's going blue and it's swelling. Doctors know, okay, there's a problem with the blood supply. It's
looks
probably
like
compartment syndrome. Let me
Yeah.
cut it. And it's exactly the opposite to that. So because snakebite looks so similar to trauma, and doctors know trauma, that's something they're all good at. No matter where you are in South Africa, we have the best trauma doctors in the world. And they look at this and they go, but I've seen this 1,000 times. I know what to do. And they don't think, what is causing this? It wasn't a crush injury. It was as a result of a bite. And that's where things get confused. It's because the trauma doctors are so used to certain symptoms being caused by certain things that they follow what they do every day. And in some cases, it's not the right thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. What are the species that have the highest percentage of bites in captivity from your experience? Probably
exotics now. The worst ones would be the white-lipped tree vipers, Trimeresursus albolabris. A lot of people get bitten by them. Copperheads as well, because those are the good starter hots.
Starter.
They make an anti-venom for that. There's a reason why they make anti-venom. They don't make it because it hurts. They make it because it kills. Yes. So, no, they're not very good starter animals. If you want a starter animal, I'd prefer you keeping a mamba to keeping a white-lipped tree viper. And people go, you're crazy. I go, if you get bitten by a mamba, I can treat you. Get bitten by a white-lipped tree viper, I can't help you.
Yes, because we don't have that anti-venom.
We don't have the anti-venom. And then we've seen quite a few western diamondbacks. And then there are the freaks that come out, things like some of the bothrops. I've seen some of the other smaller rattlesnakes. There's been a couple of nasty ones, but luckily, so far, touch wood, in South Africa, we haven't lost a single person to a snake bite, an exotic snake bite. There was a story about a girl that committed suicide using a water moccasin down in KZN, but that was in the 50s, and I don't believe the story. The story was, I've actually read the report, and if you look at it, there's just way too many holes in it. for somebody who was a snake lover and this was her pet, to get that to bite her in the neck and then she just left it to wander around in the room. That's rubbish. You're not going to die that quickly from a water moccasin bite. I mean, you're probably not even going to die from it. But she supposedly got the snake to bite her in the neck, and what she would have done was put it back in the cage and close it because she didn't want anyone to kill it while they're trying to find her body, So it just didn't make sense. I don't believe that, and so far, touch wood, we haven't had anyone die. Yeah. If it's a keeper that gets bitten and dies, it's not that much of a problem. If that snake escapes and it bites the neighbor's little 4-year-old daughter and she dies from a king cobra or a Jameson's mamba or whatever, we can kiss this hobby goodbye. It's gone. It will be shut down.
So what do you think are some of the bare necessities? Okay, I don't want to talk about bare necessities because I think we shouldn't strive as keepers to have
achieve the minimum.
Yes, exactly. I don't think that's something we should strive to do. So what are some of the things you think for a room with keeping venomous snakes that are a must?
Firstly, have a room. Don't keep them in the lounge. Don't keep them in your bedroom. You need a room, preferably with a double door if you can. If you can see through both doors, even better. Even if it's just a glass panel that you can look through before you open the door and find out your 3-meter mamba is now lying on top of the cupboards waiting for you. So the first thing is have a dedicated venomous snake room. And then secondly, lock the cages. Some of the locks you can make for cages are simple. It's basically a bent piece of wire which you've rounded the end. You put it in, it falls down, and it's safe. So that is the most important thing. There's a movement towards, we need to have especially exotic venomous snakes on permit. And we need to permit the snakes, and I get so frustrated because, number one, why should I have a permit for something which is less dangerous than the neighbor's dog? And it's not going to achieve anything. A snake with a permit, if it escapes, is going to bite the neighbor as badly as a snake without a permit that escapes and bites the neighbor. So instead of permitting the snake, license the keeper.
Yes.
Right, I want to become a venomous snake keeper. Okay, good. What experience do you have? I kept a ball python. Nope, sorry. Not going to happen. You're going to have to at least get a mentor. You're going to have to spend some time with that person. You're going to have to sign an indemnity. If you get bitten and you die, that's your problem. And you're going to have to at least go on 1 to 2 courses, and you're going to write an exam. And if you don't pass the exam, you don't get licensed as a keeper. Once you're licensed as a keeper, they can come and check you every year or 2 years or whatever they want to do. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. And if in between I've had an incident, for example, a snake escaped, got over the wall, the neighbor killed it, phoned the provincial ordinance, provincial nature conservation people, and they've come out and they've actually identified, okay, it is your snake, then they can do an investigation. What happened? Was it actually your fault? Is there anything that you did wrong? Or was it something where there was a minor tremor, the cage's glass broke, the snake got out, and because of the tremor, the door fell off or something and the snake got out? There can also often be reasons for that.
Yes.
I mean, I've been in trouble about a snake that escaped and the neighbors found it. And I looked at the snake and I said, but it's not my snake. I've never had this snake before. I've never seen this snake. And somebody had come there to my front door, saw I wasn't there, and left the snake in a box. Unfortunately, it was a cardboard box. And the snake escaped. And the snake then obviously went to the neighbor, caused trouble there. And I got into trouble for a snake which wasn't mine. So there are reasons why they need to do an investigation. And if you don't qualify, they give you 6 weeks and they say, please get rid of your snakes, pass them on to somebody else. So if they license the keeper, I'd feel a lot happier. I don't have a problem if I had to be licensed. But the problem that I have with this whole thing is we give the authorities way too much opportunity to turn you down. And for them, if you're sitting in an office and every application that comes across your desk, you go refused, 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 you get the same salary. But if you get one now and you go, oh, maybe this person should be approved, let's go and do our work, you get the same salary. And to be honest, most of the people are too damn lazy to do their work and actually do what they get paid for as public servants. And I'm scared to give them or to suggest that they have those extra powers, which they don't have now, and have them abuse it.
Yes.
So that's why I don't push for it. But I have pushed for it in the past where they've said, okay, we're not going to allow you to keep anything. Then I go, well, this could work. And it's not just with snakes. It's the same with people who keep monkeys, people who keep coatis, people who keep raccoons. There's so many other wild animals that people keep, which I feel you should at least know enough about them before you get them.
Yes.
For example, I want a chinchilla. Okay, go to the shop, go buy a chinchilla. That chinchilla is going to die. To me, it's about the animal as well. It's not, chinchillas are dangerous, they're going to go bite the neighbor's kids. No, it's not going to happen. But why not say, look, if you want to keep exotic pets, just attend a morning meeting, have somebody talk to you about chinchillas. This is what you do and this is what you don't do. You write a small little test and you go home and yes, you're allowed to keep chinchillas. So, I mean, chinchillas are obviously the lowest rating of them, but I legally am allowed to keep a tiger. There's nothing to stop me keeping a tiger because it's not indigenous. If they then start looking at specific cages for those animals, they can come to you and say, yes, you can keep a tiger, but just by the way, your tiger's cage has to be 100 meters by 100 meters by 10 meters high. And you go, but I can't do that in town. Then they go, well, don't keep it in town then.
Yes.
So if I want to keep a tiger, I have to buy myself a property where I can have a cage of 100 meters by 100 meters and 8 meters high, and I can keep the tiger. Why should I not be allowed to keep a tiger? What's the problem with it? Less people have died from tiger bites than they have from dog bites. So, yes, okay, there are more dogs, but if you look at it statistically, it doesn't really matter.
Yes, because it's also like the person who gets the tiger knows the risks involved and is willing to take those risks. So I can't say anyone's like losing out on anything like that. Like, It's not a wild animal that...
It's just basically forcing people to be educated about whatever animal they want to keep. And it's not just snakes. It covers all the other animals as well. I mean... Okay, we don't have them here, but there's nothing to stop me keeping a grizzly bear.
Yes.
Which shouldn't happen. You should have to at least have been mentored by somebody who has got a grizzly bear or a wolf. There's a lot of wolves going around. You should know, okay, this is wolf behavior. It's not dog behavior. This is how you treat a wolf. It's not a dog. And once you've done that and you've written the exam and you've passed it and everything, then they go, okay, great, here. You can now go and own a wolf. And then you own a wolf.
Yeah.
And you got a license. You don't have a permit. It doesn't cost you anything. But you're a licensed wolf keeper.
So then what do you think about like the Florida 1,000 hours? Do you think that's something that could
rubbish.
ever work here?
No, that could never work here. The big reason is, and it's a big problem that they have in the States, is I don't want some protege there all the time bothering me when I'm working with snakes. Quite often I work with the snakes to get away from people. So I don't want that person there so often. And it doesn't really make that much difference.
What do you mean by having a person there?
If you have to do 1,000 hours, you've got to do 1,000 hours at somebody else's facility, working with them, working with their snakes, cleaning cages, all that, which is nice to have somebody who can do that. But if I had somebody like that, all he's going to do is clean up crap. I'm not going to, let him mess around with any of my rarest stuff. So he's not going to learn that much. If he hangs around, he can probably see, okay, this is how so-and-so handles it. But you can do that in training sessions. I'd rather have somebody spend 4 hours a day on 3 occasions and actually be trained and, go through videos and physically, okay, this is how you restrain a snake. This is how you don't restrain a snake. This is how you build a cage. This is the sort of shelving that you put in there and draw systems and all that. And once they have that, then license them as a keeper, but license them for stuff which is not going to be that bad. For example, yes, you can keep night adders and horned adders and a couple of copperheads and maybe some white laps or something like that. You're not going to go, okay, here, you can keep a pop one taipan. Just because the risk to the community is a lot higher. The risk to the person is probably the same, and we don't really care. If the neighbor's kid gets bitten by a night adder, it's going to be traumatic and it's going to be nasty, and this person would have had to take out insurance on that, but it's not that bad. But a taipan can go in there and kill 7 people, and that would destroy this hobby completely. So I'd rather want to do something from, I've even tried from our side to say, look, this is what we want to do before we will recommend a permit for you. If you have not done a snake handling course or a husbandry course, we're not going to approve a permit for you to keep a puffadder or a snouted cobra or whatever. We tried that, and people were then hopping between different clubs because this club isn't that strict. And why should we join that club if they're so strict and, we have to do this and we have to be at all the meetings? And these guys just go, okay, no, it's fine. You just have to pay 200 Rand a year and, you're a member. So it becomes very difficult for us to enforce that because we don't have the capability to enforce it. But I don't want to give that capability to government because I already have too many powers. Yes. And they will go crazy. And then once they get that, then they start to include the state vet and the SPCA, and you're working with 5 different ministers if you've got a complaint, and it just becomes a total mess. So it would be nice if we could do that ourselves from the industry's point of view and go, okay, listen, guys, from now on, let's do this. If a kid arrives there and he wants to buy your baby copperheads, have a look. Has he done a handling course? Does he know anything about the snake? Have him fill out a questionnaire and go, what is the venom like? How, what's their striking distance? What do the babies generally feed on? All that sort of stuff. Once he knows that, then you go, okay, sure, yeah, there's your copperhead. So if we could do it from our side, it would be great. It's never going to happen.
Yeah, that's sad because us as keepers should strive to do the best for the animals, but also like the best for the community, because we have to, as you said earlier, be a community and stick together because we're in this together and we all have the same love for the animals and want to keep them and have our rights to keep these animals and not have that taken away from us.
Well, it's been taken away in large parts of Europe. You're not allowed to keep venomous snakes. Some of I know in Berlin, for example, you can't keep constrictors which grow longer than 2 meters. Now, if you take something like a carpet python, it's not a dangerous snake, but no, you're not allowed to keep it because it grows over 2 meters. So some of that is really, really stupid and was thought out by bunny huggers who had no idea what they're talking about. And the same is happening in the States. There's very many places there where you're not allowed to keep venomous snakes. You're not allowed to keep large constrictors. And then they've got this whole, you're not allowed to keep retics, boas, Burmese, all sorts of stuff like this. And I'm going, what difference does it make? African rock pythons, Nile monitors. Yes, I understand that they could become invasive, and they have become invasive in some areas. But, there's this research that was done recently about how many animals get killed by cats just in Cape Town, in the reserves, not in town. I think it was 30,000 a year or something stupid, 300,000 a year. Something ridiculous. Don't go and worry about my little snake that might get out and might survive and might live a season, and then they're probably going to die. The research so far that we've had shows that most of the snakes, when they're relocated, if you relocate them too far, they die in any case.
Yes.
So, people catch, the one guy's doing research now on Russell's vipers, catches Russell's vipers, moves them a couple of kilometers, lets them go, they live for 4 months, and then they die. Now expect my rosy boa to escape and then be able to get next door and take over the whole population. It's rubbish. Come on, it's rubbish. People are looking for excuses to say no, and we don't want to give them that opportunity. They could rather spend that time trying to kill off the minor birds, the lovebirds, cats, dogs, whatever, all the feral animals. I'm not talking about people's pets now, but there are more feral animals that are a problem than what any invasive animal from the pet trade could ever do. Minor birds were not part of the pet trade. Lovebirds are not really a big issue. The ringneck parakeets are actually not really an issue because they're not outcompeting other parrots. We don't have parrots in the areas where we're finding them. Yes. And if you really wanted to, we could wipe them out over a weekend. But now the bunny huggers come in again and go, oh, you mustn't keep a Indian ringneck. Okay, great. Can we shoot them? No, you mustn't shoot them. So what must we do? I had an argument with a woman yesterday about the cats. They've got these feral cat feeding stations. And I suggested that they poison the cats that come to the feeding station, which is actually illegal, but still, that's the way I feel. And this woman was saying, oh, but do you know how painful it is? Why don't they catch the cats and sterilize them? So I said to her, they're not shagging the chameleons to death. They are killing the chameleons because they have nothing else to do. And people who go, oh, we'll sterilize all the feral cats. That's not the problem. The problem is their mouths, not the other side. So there's so many things that people get excited about. Oh, but all these invasive species, and the Burmese python's going to get out and crossbreed with the rock pythons. And I'm looking at this, I'm going, do you know how many Burmese pythons die every winter in cages where they're heated because of load shedding? It's astronomical. That snake will not survive if you release it. And there is no population anywhere in South Africa of any reptile which was brought here by the pet trade. Nothing. We have the small little Ligodactylus for example, in Bloemfontein. They're plentiful there. They arrived there with people's cars and plants and all sorts of other stuff. They're not as a result of the pet trade. If you look at these blind snakes, flower pot snakes,
yes,
those came in with plants and stuff like that. They were never part of the pet trade. Tropical house geckos, they moved around by themselves. I mean, yes, okay, people moved them, but they're moving slowly by themselves all the way. That's how they spread. That's what animals do. If they can survive, they'll survive. And it's not as if they're displacing other animals. There's no pets that are displacing indigenous animals in any way. And they go, yes, but it might happen. No. Cats are problems, dogs are problems, donkeys are problems. All those things are real problems. And you're now trying to spend all your time and trouble on something which is not a problem and probably won't become a problem when there is actually a problem which you should be looking at.
So do you think that's the reason why people are against us keeping reptiles in captivity or captive pets?
Yeah. That's one of the biggest reasons. The other thing is that they don't understand reptiles. They can't understand why would you want to keep a reptile. Oh, sis, no, they slimy and all that. It's a wild animal. Let's go back to the wild. I mean, I've got snakes there that if you don't hold a dead mouse in front of them, they're not even going to eat. So if that snake escapes, he's going to probably escape and sit in my garden and go, well, where's my food? So the number of snakes which we've bred to multiple generations, they're basically almost domesticated. It's not really a hassle. But yes, I do see the problem with the venomous snakes. And if we can curtail that, then I'd be a lot safer, because I wouldn't want a colony of Western Diamondbacks in Sandton.
Yeah,
no. That's not something that I want for any reason. So we need to sweep in front of our own door, get ourselves in position. But when we have stupid laws that come in about how the West African gaboon viper is going to take over the tropical rainforests of Gauteng. I mean, come on. Have you flown over this place? There's no tropical rainforest. That's where they live.
Yeah, not in Gauteng. No.
Not in Gauteng, and not even in KZN. But they're unfortunately listed now, and you need permits to keep them in KZN and Mpumalanga, Eastern Cape as well. I mean, I haven't seen many tropical rainforests in Eastern Cape.
Yeah.
It gets kind of cold there.
Yeah, there may be little pockets of tropical rainforest, but
can you see Nasicornis living there?
No.
So it was stupid, and instead of them using us to be able to ban certain animals or restrict them, they went about it the wrong way. And for example, red-eared sliders. I don't want red-eared sliders in South Africa. I hate those things because I've seen them in various countries. I've seen them in Germany on ice going paddling across the ice. I've seen them all around the world. I saw them in Hong Kong. Yes, they do have the potential to become invasive. So let's not have them. But they weren't even banned. They were only listed in such a way that they hope they'll eventually die out because you're not allowed to breed them. Now that was what they did with ferrets back in the 1980s in Gauteng. We had a lot of ferrets, and they said, okay, you're not allowed to keep ferrets. You have to have a microchip in and you have to have them sterilized. And obviously ferrets have got a short lifespan, so within the next 6 years there were no ferrets left in Gauteng. And this was their claim to fame, that they managed to wipe out the ferrets without causing any problems. Now they've said the same about red-eared sliders. Yes, you can keep a red-eared slider, but you can't breed it, and you're not allowed to transport it, and you're not allowed to sell it, and all this sort of stuff. People who keep red-eared sliders already don't give a damn about the law, because otherwise they wouldn't have them. And when we said, okay, let's take the red-eared sliders, give them to universities for research or give them to zoos, and if they are in excess, we have them euthanized or we ship them to the Far East for food, there was a big outcry about this. No, not allowed to do that, because the animal has its own rights. And that's when things went completely wrong. Same with the Indian ringnecks. I mean, we could get the guys who go wing shooting to spend one day in Durban, and they could probably wipe out more than half the population of Indian ringnecks. But it doesn't fall in the category of, oh, let's be nice to nature.
Even though
we want to be nice to nature, but not so nice to nature. You can't have it both ways. And when they come up with something which is that stupid, that it makes no sense, there's no scientific sense behind it, that's when I look at it and I go, why should I comply? If it doesn't make sense, why should I comply with it?
Yeah, and there's some absolutely ridiculous laws out there that are changing the way that we have to look at everything, which is, it's not fun. But we have to, us as keepers, just continually evolve ourselves and get better so this doesn't continually happen.
The problem is authorities think that when they pass a law, that's actually going to be a solution. And it's not. People don't give a damn about laws. If they, for example, passed a law tomorrow and said, you are not allowed to keep white-lipped tree vipers, do you think anyone's going to get rid of theirs? No, they're not. They're just going to keep them underground. They've tried this now. The law was passed in 2016, which gives us 6 years. All Burmese pythons require a permit. I can take you now to at least 10 people who don't have permits for their Burmese pythons because when they applied, they got told they can't have them, or
yet they already had them before.
Yet they already had them. So the law must make sense if you want people to follow it.
Yes.
And unfortunately, by passing a law which is unjust or unscientific, it doesn't mean people will follow that law. So they need to speak to the people in the community and say, look, what are we going to do? How do we get around this? Can we restrict it? Can we just convince you to have microchips and not say, no, you can't do it. As soon as you say no, the guy's going to do it in any case. And that's where the problems come in. For example, the Performing Animal Protection Act. The reptiles were not listed there because you can't train a reptile. And then right at the end so I was involved in the process in the beginning, and I saw reptiles weren't involved. So I said, you know what, I'm not going to go to any more meetings. The very last meeting they had, some idiot put his hand up and said, what about reptiles? So they said, oh, hell, let's put them on as well. So now, if you move a reptile from your place to wherever you are going to be using it to perform, for example, at a kid's party or whatever, you have to stop every 2 hours and take him out so he can run around. You also have to feed him when he gets there and give him water, and feed him and give him water before you leave. Stupid things like this which are in the law. And I looked at this and nothing made sense. And I said, why were reptiles included? Oh no, some of the stakeholders wanted them added. I said, what stakeholders? There was nobody. No, it was one guy from Cape Town. So one guy from Cape Town who said something, now suddenly the whole country has to abide by a stupid act. You have to microchip all your animals. And I go, but I do talks and I've got things like poison dart frogs. How am I going to microchip the poison dart frog? Give him a trailer or a wheelbarrow or what? It doesn't make sense. And you have to apply a year in advance. Okay, in the next year, I'm going to use the following animals in movies. Okay, great. 6 months later, somebody says, I need tadpoles for a kid's room. We're shooting some movie or whatever. How can I know 6 months in advance what tadpoles I'm going to have available for him to be able to do that? So my income now gets cut because I can't do it. I'm sorry, I can't give you the tadpoles. Oh, okay. So I lose the job just because some idiot thought it was a good idea to try and protect everything or control everything. And they mustn't try to control stuff which they don't know what it's about.
Yeah, like feeding a reptile or a snake before it goes on the journey, and then after, you're causing more stress to the animal because then if kids handle it, it's going to regurgitate. Plus, it shouldn't eat that much, like twice in a day.
It's crazy, but that's what the law says. And one of them is that if you're transporting an animal, within 8 hours you have to stop and take it out and let it run around and drink water and everything. Imagine I'm moving a mamba to Cape Town and I stop in Beaufort West and I have to stop on a level surface. Why? I have no idea. It's just some of the stupidest laws. You should actually go through them one day. Now, if I get there and I take out a mamba and I let it run around at the engine garage, do you know what is going to happen? That is the last time that I would even be allowed anywhere near there. Plus, I now have a problem because nature conservation say you can transport the animal, but you're not allowed to take it out until it reaches its destination. So now I've got two laws. Which one do I follow? The one that's logical or the one that isn't?
They're both bashing each other, basically.
And if I'm taking the snake to Cape Town to sell, none of this is applicable. But if I'm taking it there to take it out so they can film it for a movie, then all these restrictions are applicable. So it makes no sense. And it's because of laws like that people break the law and then they go, yeah, you see, everybody breaks the law. And we don't want to break the law. We would prefer to not break the law, but we want the law to be reasonable.
Yeah, so we got to work together and try and help the authorities create better laws as well.
Yeah.
So how can people avoid bites? Like, what can they do in captivity to stay safer and avoid?
Unfortunately, I'm a bit biased because I present these courses, but a husbandry course, for example, is one of the best things you can do. Reason being, if you're starting with venomous snakes or you've just gotten into it, it's better to tap somebody's experience who's been doing it for, 25 years, and use that experience and go, okay, that makes sense why a cage needs to look like this, why it can't be a fish tank with a piece of wood and the dictionary on top of it. All those little things where people make mistakes. On the day, you can actually sit there and you can go, okay, and then while you're busy, you can go, right, what is the reason for this, or what happens in this? And you can have somebody say, well, okay, this, and there's other people with you there who go, well, I've tried this and this. So you get that sense of, you can ask questions without somebody going, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's a beginner, ignore him. Everybody has this thirst for knowledge. And here you can openly ask somebody and say, well, why do you say I must only keep one buffalo per cage? Why can't I keep 3 in a cage? And you'll have people who can say, well, there's this reason, or I've done this, or whatever. People say, oh, buffaloes don't eat each other. I can show you photos of buffaloes eating each other. They do.
Yeah, even ball pythons.
Even ball pythons. I've got a picture now, which I circulated the other day for somebody, was a boa constrictor that ate a ball python. So stupid little things like that where people go, no, but I want to keep them as a pair, or they're happy together. Rubbish. It doesn't work like that. And you need to have 2 or 3 people who have the experience and have said, well, I've tried it, it doesn't work, or I know that it doesn't work, or yes, it might work, I haven't thought about that. Yeah, possibly it could work, but then you would have to do this and this and this. And so you're getting other people's information and knowledge. And if you've got that, when you start and you stick with it, then your chances of having an accident, either getting bitten or losing a snake or whatever, then is reduced.
So how safe or dangerous do you think it is to keep venomous snakes? Because everybody is under the impression, oh, you keep a venomous snake, you're going to die from it type of thing.
Most people get bitten at some stage. It also doesn't mean that you're going to die from the bite. As you know, 80% of bites don't require anti-venom, so yes, that will happen. If you look after your snake well enough and if you take all the precautions, there's a good chance that you won't get bitten. I know people who keep venomous snakes who have never been bitten. And I'm talking about guys that are way older than what I am. And some people are just, because they're so conscientious about what they do, they have never put themselves in a situation to be bitten. And then I know other people who are in their 20s who've been bitten 5 times. So it depends on the way you're going to set up your place and what you're going to do to ensure that you don't get bitten and the snake is not stressed. Snakes bite when they're stressed. They don't bite because or sometimes by accident, but most of the time it's because they're stressed, which can be, a stressor could be you putting your hand in there to take out the water bowl because they think it's food or it's too big to be food or it's something that's going to attack them. There's so many things that can go wrong.
Yeah, that's true. And at the end of the day, if you're keeping that snake, it is your fault if you are bitten. Yes, it may even be an accidental thing, like a freak accident, but it's still your fault because you decided to keep the animals. So what advice would you give someone who wants to get into venomous?
Don't.
I knew you were going to say that.
I can say that and say, yes, there's so many non-venomous snakes that are very similar and, you get the same experience, but there's very few things that are as nice as walking past a cage and seeing a gaboon adder lying there or one of the rhinoceros vipers or something
very
like that.
True.
So, yes, it does give you a kick and it is nice because some of the snakes are pretty. I mean, copperheads on average are very pretty. Tree vipers and bush vipers are all very pretty. If there was something that was basically exactly the same, it was non-venomous, you could keep that as well because it's just as pretty. But we don't have that. So if you're going to start with venomous snakes, join a club, start with indigenous venomous stuff. If you get bitten, I can save you.
Yeah.
If you get bitten by an exotic, I can't save you. I can't promise that you're going to be okay. So gain your experience with things like night adders and wrinkles and things that are not that dangerous. People go, yeah, wrinkles is deadly venomous. When last did someone die from a wrinkles bite? Unless you are busy killing the wrinkles or trying to choke it or something, a wrinkles bite is not going to be bad. So,
and they don't really try to bite people.
They don't. They'll rather play dead or run away or something like that. So, yes, start with things like night adders, start with things like wrinkles. Build your way up. You're not going to start with black and green mambas. Some people shouldn't be keeping mambas because they are just too big and they don't have the facilities and the animal's not going to be looked after as well as what it could. So, yes, some people shouldn't take on things like mambas, but they could maybe take on some of the smaller venomous stuff. And then once you've gotten to the point where you've managed to avoid a bite for 3 or 4 years now, you've never come close to being bitten, and you feel, okay, you're ready now, then you look at something like eyelash vipers or any of the bush vipers, something like that. If you like something that's faster and moves a bit quicker, start keeping things like coral snakes.
And bathrops. No, I'm joking.
I've kept bathrops. I mean, when I was a kid, I didn't realize how bad bathrops bites were. And I shudder to think today, but I mean, I've free-handled bathrops in New Vedi. I didn't know how bad the bite was. And somebody was there to photograph them one day, a guy from Germany, and he said, "You what?" And I picked the thing up and he said, "Are you out of your mind? This thing will kill you." I'm going, "No, they're like night adders. The guys know they're going to kill you." So that was my stupid phase. I didn't realize how bad they were. But I was lucky. But yes, a bite from a bathrops, you're probably not going to survive it.
Yeah, their venom is incredibly disgusting, if I can say that.
We had a bathrops bite, I think it was earlier this year.
Yeah.
The guy ended up buying the Anti-Venom. Cost him 120,000 Rand. I don't have 120,000 Rand just because I want to keep something which looks like a glorified big night adder. So, no.
Yeah.
No. If I'm going to waste Anti-Venom, I'm going to waste it on something which is really gorgeous, like a I don't know, one of the big mambas or something like that. I'm not going to waste it on an ugly snake. Okay? Because let's be honest, Bothrops are not the prettiest of snakes.
I agree. I don't.
And same thing with
Bothrops.
taipans. I mean, people, I've got a taipan. Whoopie-doo. I've got a banded snouted cobra. It's way prettier than your snake.
I agree with that too. Although I think the only taipans are like the Papuan taipans. They're better than like all the inland taipans. Everyone's like, oh, I got an inland taipan. Yeah, they're cool, but I just personally, I don't
look
think
nice.
they look as cool. It looks like a snake. I think that keeping that
it
is
could just
more
as well
for,
be
wow, it's the most venomous snake type of thing.
It could just as well be a big olive grass snake. They
Yeah.
look the same. So yes, there are some of the snakes which make no sense for people to keep. And yes, each person's got the right to keep what they like, but then they should also have the right to buy their own anti-venom.
Very
And if
true.
they've got their own anti-venom, great. If they don't have their own anti-venom, they mustn't bother me. And they must make sure that their actions don't influence me keeping what I want to keep. And that's why people, especially the free handlers, go, yes, but it's I can do what I like and you can't tell me what to do, which is great until you get bitten and there's a problem and the newspapers pick it up. And then it's about this guy who had 112 dangerous, deadly snakes in his garden. And all. Then it becomes a problem for me and you are now affecting my life, my hobby, and my interest. Then you don't count very, very highly on my scale. So just leave me alone and just don't do something that's stupid.
Yeah. So how can we like acquire exotic anti-venoms in South Africa? Because I know it seems
it's very, very difficult. It's very expensive, and to get anti-venom to here, you have to apply to import medicines, because it's classified as a medicine, so that is a whole thing on its own. And then the antivenom itself is very expensive, and then it is only valid for a very short period of time. So if you're looking at something like Crowfab at the moment, I think it's $3,500 each. A decent bite from something like a Eastern Diamondback, you're probably going to go through about 20 vials. So we're talking R750,000 just in antivenom. And then you're going to be in ICU for at least 4 days. You can add another 100,000 to that. Your doctor's bill is probably another 200,000. So you're looking at about 1.1 million rand for a proper Eastern Diamondback bite.
And it's not even the coolest snake in my
Albinos
eyes.
are pretty.
They are pretty, but
look,
they're not.
It's a nice snake. To try and get some of the venoms, antivenoms is basically impossible. For example, you can't get antivenom for Papuan taipan very easily. You're really going to have to know people who know people before you can get it. You can't just ask someone in Australia or in New Guinea, for that example, to go to the chemist and go and buy it there. It's not available. If you're bringing in stuff from South America, in some of the countries like Mexico, you can buy antivenom over the counter, and they've got some really good ones made by the Butantan Institute in Brazil, and so they're a lot cheaper as well, and they do work well. But how are you going to get them into the country?
Yeah.
Plus now you go into a hospital and you've got something which the doctor's not sure what it is, and you say, please inject me with this, and the doctor says, well, where did you get this? I order my stuff from a chemist, and you go, no, it's my own private stock. And they're going to look at this and go, you know what, I'm not comfortable giving you this, and it is a risk. So, thinking, yes, I've got antivenom, I'll be fine, doesn't work.
I'm so glad I love indigenous animals. It just makes life a lot easier for me too. Because let's be honest, in Southern Africa, we have some of the most incredible reptiles on the planet. Like, there's nothing that tops.
But the thing is, if you keep something like a West African gaboon, the antivenom covers them. Our South African antivenom does cover a bite. Same with the nasicornis, covers that. Also, parvoocula, believe it or not, is covered by SAVP vaccine, antivenom. So for some of the species, it's not that radical to keep some of them, but they're also close by. But when you start looking at some of the Australian stuff, the venoms are completely different, and it's really difficult if you get bitten. South American stuff, also a lot of bleeding, a lot of swelling, a lot of tissue damage. So it's not really something that you should think, well, okay, this is the ultimate. Rather look at something which is similar, which is not going to be as bad.
Yeah. So how would one go into getting South African polyvalent anti-venom?
Oh, you can just buy it. You order it and you pay for it, and they tell you to come and pick it up next week, and you go and buy it. The problem with that is, okay, now you've got it. Within 3 years, it's expired, and you're not going to replace it every 3 years because you're going to buy a minimum of 10 vials. At the moment, it's 1,650 rand, I think, per vial. So you're paying 16,500 rand for the anti-venom, and if you don't use it in 3 years, you're basically going to throw it away and spend it all over again. Where most of the hospitals do have. And if you've got friends in the right places, we can organize anti-venom from anywhere for you. So if you get bitten by an indigenous snake, we can get the anti-venom to the hospital where you are, or send you to a hospital where we know either they've got anti-venom, or we can get anti-venom to them and they have the proper facilities to ventilate or whatever you require at that time.
So in South Africa, you wouldn't recommend keepers have their own stock of polyvalent anti-venom?
No.
Okay.
No, it's a waste of time. There is one nice thing about polyvalent anti-venom, especially the South African one. It's a very high quality product. It's actually a very good product, and we've used it 10 years after it expired, and it worked perfectly. So the unfortunate thing is that it has to expire after 3 years because of the Medical Control Council. Medicines do have an expiry date, but you can still use it. If you are stuck and you have no other choice, you can use expired anti-venom, many years expired, as long as it's been kept in the fridge, doesn't have flocculants in it. If you turn it up and down and it's clear, you can use it and it'll work.
Okay.
It works very well.
But still then just rather not keep it because you don't have to...
You don't really need to. Just make sure that you know which hospital near you has got anti-venom, and just check that they have in stock quite often. Otherwise, get a contact who can get anti-venom to them when you need it.
That makes sense. And for the favorite question everybody wants to know always, have you been bitten?
I've been bitten lots of times. Venomous snakes, not so often. Required anti-venom, never. So I've never had a proper, what you call a snake bite.
Okay.
I have made mistakes. Most of them were probably when I was at school. But since then, I've never had a bite that I need anti-venom. I had one bite probably, I think, about 14 years ago. Stupid mistake of mine. I didn't put my foot down when I was doing industrial theatre for mines, teaching them about dangers in the mines, using snakes as an analogy for that. And I said to them, I need lights behind me because I can't see into the cages when I take the snakes out. And they messed around and didn't put up lights. And the one day the tail was hanging out, I grabbed the tail. The head was right next to it, and the snake nailed me. It wasn't a serious bite, but I learned my lesson because I've contacted them that week and said to them, if there are not lights on the stage next week, I'm walking off and you're still paying me. And I had lights on, and I never had a problem after that. So sometimes you need to put your foot down to make sure you don't put yourself in a situation where you could get bitten.
Yeah.
And other than that, I've never had a serious bite. But I'm also a sissy. I don't, for example, worry what other people think if I neck something like a Samophis, one of these big sand snakes, or Rufus-beaked snake or something like that, because I don't want to get bitten by stuff all the time and eventually build up a sensitivity to them, because the day I get a serious bite, I don't want to have some allergy which I got from scarpstekers to suddenly be a problem with my treatment.
Yes, and for those of you who don't know, scarpstekers are it's consideredly mildly venomous or
harmless to humans,
exactly,
kind of thing. It's not really harmless to humans. I've seen a couple of nasty bites.
Same here. Not medically important is what they'd say, but
still, it's not something you want to have chewing on you all the time. Those are the sort of things that I try to avoid those bites as much as what I do try and avoid a retic bite. I don't know if you've ever seen a bad retic bite, but it looks like
can mess you up.
Yeah, some crackhead got hold of you with 6 different knives because it can really leave bad marks. So I just prefer to not get myself in situations where you get bitten, and it just makes my life so much easier. I also have learned to, if I can't afford them, make my own tools that are specific for animals that I'm working with, so that I don't have this problem and not have to bastardize some medical equipment or aquarium equipment to be able to work with the snake or feed it or whatever. I then sit down and make my own, which is the best that I can at the time, and use that if I'm working with snakes, that I can use, that I can have that distance between the sharp end and the soft part of me.
Yes. So what are like some of the rules you never do with a venomous snake, or one should never do?
Never be in a hurry. Never take it out to show off. Never touch a snake when you've been drinking. I use that as an excuse sometimes when people phone and they've got a snake in the house, and I know that it's a house snake and it's way too far and it's 2:00 in the morning. I just say to them, sorry, I've had 2 beers. If you can't drive, you can't work with snakes. And then the other thing is never assume. You can't ever assume that the snake is in that corner, it's going to stay there, you can quickly grab the water bowl. Last year, a guy got bitten by a green mamba. He'd had it for 12 years. The cage that it's in is over 2 meters high. The snake always sits in the top corner. And the water bowl is on the opposite corner at the bottom. Opened the cage, as he put in to get the water bowl out, the snake hopped from that tree down, hit him in the hand, and he ended up with a proper green mamba bite. So never assume. Don't ever assume that, yes, but the snake never bites, I can just quickly scoop its tail. Or no, you never assume with a venomous snake. Always treat it as if it's your first experience.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's so true. Well, I think that's it for this episode. Where can people find more about you and like Snakebite Assist if they want to follow along?
Obviously, there's a website, snakebiteassist.co.za. Otherwise, on Facebook, just look up Arno Naude, send me a friend request. If you need to, you can send me a message and say, hey, I've sent you a friend request, I know so-and-so. Because I get a lot of friend requests from people who, hello, darling, and I'm really not in the mood for
random
that.
spam accounts.
So, if the person has got even just a reptile somewhere on the first page, then I go, okay, it's probably a reptile keeper, and then I'll befriend them. So I still have some space. I was full up on friends, so I had to delete some of them. But yeah, just send me a message there. It's not a problem.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for this episode. I really enjoyed it.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Cheers, guys.
See ya.